Hi, everybody, and welcome to our Back to Life podcast. I am your host, Danny Bader, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 8, with our guest today, Dr. Anthony Balduzzi. Dr. Anthony is the founder of an organization called Fit Father Project, and then since then has begun Fit Mother Project. And the whole mission of him and his team is to help men and women over 40 as they go into their 50s and 60s and 70s lose weight and become healthier and stronger as they age. He's got a great story that will move you when he talks about the loss of his own father at 42 years of age. So Dr. Anthony talks about his organization where they've helped now over 40,000 men and women over 40 lose significant weight and become much healthier. He talks about what's really important in getting started is understanding your deep why. And around that, we talk about the difference between motivation and inspiration. Dr. Anthony also reminds us and educates us on the importance of mindset. And he gives you 2 tips, you're going to want to hear these, that you can start right now to move towards losing weight and becoming healthier. So if you are somebody, and there's a lot of folks out there, Dr. Anthony said that 46% of the men over 40 years old are overweight. That's almost half. That's almost 50%. And he said within that, there's some people significantly obese. And life is too short, right? Life is too precious for us not to pay attention and to focus on our health. So enjoy the episode with Dr. Anthony, and we will get into it right now. Hey, Dr. Anthony, thanks a lot for joining us today. I'm certainly really excited for our conversation today and the content and the work you deliver. So thanks, Dr. Anthony.
Thanks for having me, Danny. Excited for our conversation too.
All right, you got it. Why don't you tell, in the intro, certainly our listeners, our audience heard a little bit about you, but why don't you tell that story I've heard a few times about growing up and about your father that really was the foundation for the work you do, and then we'll kind of get into it.
Yeah, so growing up, I didn't plan on getting interested in health and fitness or becoming a doctor. What happened was I watched my own dad work himself to the bone, get very sick, and he passed away at 42 years young. My dad got diagnosed with cancer, and we just saw it devastate his health and ultimately our family when he passed. When he passed, I was 9 at the time. My little brother was 6, and it rocked our world. And we were living in Toronto, Canada at the time. And Dad moved us out to Scottsdale, Arizona, where I now reside, to kind of set my mom up for a good life and a new fresh start, knowing that he was going to pass. And he died a couple months when we moved to Arizona. And on my 10th birthday, it was the loneliest I'd ever been in my entire life. Dad died in June. It was July. It was a couple weeks later. We just moved to Arizona, and I was blowing out the candles of my 10th birthday cake. And I was just filled with this overwhelming feeling of a mix of anger and resolve that at that point in my life, I saw what happened to my dad when he lost his health, and I was going to dedicate my life to figuring out how I could stay healthy from my mom, my little brother. In my 10-year-old mind, how I could become so strong that cancer wouldn't affect me. And ultimately, the hope was that, I could figure out this health stuff so more other boys and girls didn't have to go through what our family was going through at that time.
Yeah.
So the seeds were planted through my dad's death that ended up blossoming. My mom ended up giving me a pair of my dad's old dumbbells. And I started training at night, and I was getting stronger. And from there, this journey blossomed that led me to, bodybuilding, training my other friends in high school, and ultimately to University of Pennsylvania to do my undergraduate degree, which I know you have family that goes there as well.
Sure. Yeah. Lizzie's down there.
Yeah. And
probably working in the same labs you did, right?
Exactly. We worked in very similar metabolism labs down in UPenn.
That's cool.
And then to medical school, when I was in medical school, I was seeing so many people who were a lot like my dad, midpoint of life, who amidst just everything, right? Kids, job, responsibilities, slower metabolism, achier joints. There's a lot of things in life that stack up as we age. And that's why we find that 50% of people over 50 are overweight. It's 46%, but who knows what the stats, they're probably around 50 right now. So it's 1 in 2 people are having health issues.
Wow.
So this is clearly the default. It's not the exception. And I started to unpack, why is this happening? And how could I help people get out of that rut? The same kind of rut I saw my dad fall into. So I started developing methodologies that eventually became the Fit Father Project and the Fit Mother Project, our companies with the sole mission of helping people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s lose weight, like get off the yo-yo diet thing and get onto sustainable health routines.
Great.
Build muscle so that they can have a strong, healthy metabolism and the kind of mobility and vigor into the back half of life, and get their mindset and their priorities right. So this stuff's actually sustainable. So we've kind of developed a system methodology. And I look back and I'm like, I'm happy with all the stuff that happened to my dad, because today I'm proud to announce our team has helped over 40,000 men and women in over 100 countries.
Wow.
So like we're taking my dad's memory and we're putting it to good use. And that's why I'm so happy to talk to you, because I know you have an amazing community of people who are looking to reinvent at the midpoint of life, which is like what we all need to do.
Right. Right. Now, your dad, though, up until, he passed at 42, he was really fit through his 20s and 30s and approaching that, right?
He played sports, but it's tough to exactly say. My dad wasn't the same exact case as many people who, might be like, I'm 100 pounds overweight and then I have a heart attack. That wasn't my dad, but he was the kind of guy that charged so hard with his career to put food on the table for us that he would sleep at the office sometimes. I know that must have had an impact on his immune system.
Sure.
Regardless, it's just like sometimes things happen. Think crazy medical stuff happens to us in life, but for most people, it's a stacking up of choices and negative momentum that leads to this kind of breaking point.
So true, negative momentum. So you've helped over 40,000 men and women over 40, right? How many pounds have they lost, would you say?
Hundreds of thousands, truly, but we don't actually have an exact accurate way to track all of it. But
that's amazing.
It's cool, and it really lights me up, because
I'm sure
I think every one of our customers and program members is really championing this idea that you're not over the hill,
right?
That you can take back the hill. You just need the right kind of strategies that are age appropriate, more sustainable, science-based, and realistic. Because a lot of this stuff, when it comes out to fitness, and I know we're going to get into this, is not just about knowing the information. Right. It's about getting out of your own way. It's about analyzing your habits and that negative momentum, and getting very clear on your deep motivations, these things. This is an inner game, not an outer game. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that for sure. That is cool. So you said 46%. Tell me that statistic again. 46%.
46% of men over 40, or men over 50, I should say, is what I was looking up for this podcast, are overweight.
Right. And what defines overweight?
Well, I mean, this is based on, they use BMI, right? They use a body mass index, which is not great, but it's a height to weight ratio. And it's just saying that certain people with a BMI that is going to be like, let's just say over, like normal would be like 25 in that range. Over 30, you're getting into overweight, obese category. Right. So, I mean, but we know, you just look around, you go to any sporting game, shopping mall, like people are carrying excess pounds. Yeah. So, and unfortunately, it's not just a cosmetic thing, right? This weight is inflammatory. It can suck your energy out. It can kill your confidence. So I think attacking the weight and getting that off is a very good first step.
Yeah, that's great. So let's talk about that first step. So the folks out there that are listening, and, fitness for me, when we got connected through our buddy, Mike, fitness is something that I've always engaged in for some reason, right? It's an area of my life that I always focused on. Played some sports, and I like to ski and get in the ocean and do all that kind of stuff. And even, I guess I'm in reasonably good shape for almost 58. As soon as I saw your work and all, I'm like, man, I got to learn more about this myself. So those people 40, 50, and we can kind of keep it broad stroke here for women as well, that are listening and going, damn, they're talking about me right now. What is that first step? What's that first step for them to get on this journey towards much greater health?
The thing is, and I can speak for our program members and clients, and it probably is the story of most people out there, is we've all tried different kinds of diets and workout gimmicks in the past. Right. We tried the next keto diet that goes around, or maybe it was like the Total Gym or some Chuck Norris thing we bought on an infomercial back in the day. Like, there's no shortage of things that we've tried.
Suzanne Summers, Thigh Master, that was
right.
A big
exactly. Exactly. Suzanne Summers, right? So we've seen so many of these things come and go. We've tried some of them. Maybe some of them worked for a short period of time. What really creates lasting change, the first foundation before we even talk about nutrition, sleep, exercise, hydration, is to get incredibly clear on what we call your mission statement and your why, about why at this point in your life right now, is this actually a priority for you?
Right.
And I think this comes down to the exact problem that many people fall into is they haven't made these deep connections to their fitness. I think it was interesting. You said for some reason you have stayed on this healthy fitness track. You've just kind of been active and done these kinds of sports things.
Mm-hmm.
People that haven't done that same path as you don't have these deep implicit reasons and connections about why their choices around their nutrition and exercise are the way that they are. So
right.
to not beat around the bush, to get straight to it, one of the first things we do with our program members is we have them do a journaling exercise where they end up creating a mission statement for themselves. And they start to ask some questions like, how are my current behaviors with my eating, exercise, sleep, unhealthy behaviors or lack thereof, how are those affecting every area of my life that I care about?
Right.
How's it affecting stuff you wouldn't even think about? My ability to perform at work and make money. How's it affecting my spirituality? How's it affecting my primary relationships, my parenting, my emotions, my self-confidence,
right.
Every area, whatever your core values are.
Yep.
The absolute truth is that your health is affecting that area for positive or for negative, because the experience of being human, we have awareness in these bodies, right? We're embodied beings, and the quality of the energy and how well this body moves and feels is going to color in everything that we experience. And the cool thing is when we start to get very clear on these reasons, it starts to give us more power around the choices that we make on a daily basis. So for example, one of our members might write a mission statement saying like, I, John, am committed in the next 30 days to losing 10 pounds by doing meal prep on Sunday, scheduling 3 workouts per week. And I understand that these investments are worth it because I want to be around to see my kids grow up. Right. And I know that if I don't make these changes, that I'm on a trajectory to die early like my dad.
Right. Yeah.
There's connections there. And what this does, it goes deeper with us, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a strong motivation. And I when people talk about motivation, for me, I make the distinction. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. When people, work with you or they make that transition and they said, it's shit, man, I've had enough. This is the proverbial rock bottom of my physical health and my mental health. And I got to make some changes right now. And they start to commit. I always, people talk about motivation. I believe that comes from an external source. And I talk a little bit more about inspiration, and from the Latin word in spirit. So I'm like, you don't, I think that's what you're getting to. So maybe we're just fooling around with words, but you don't want that external factor, because then you have to rely on that being around all the time. You want to create that energy inside of you, that internal energy, that whether it's Monday morning or Friday morning, it doesn't matter. You still have energy and you say, this is what I'm focused on. So I talk a little bit more about inspiration. What do you all do once people get this mission? Then how do you get that? You talked about negative momentum, I think, which is a really cool term. How do they switch that and start to develop some really strong focus and positive momentum?
First, I want to comment on the inspiration motivation. We're on the same exact page. What you're calling inspiration, I'm calling more intrinsic motivation. The intrinsic internal motivation. And I'm actually a believer that you should use both. Like from my research and experience, it's one, these mission statement, deep journaling kind of exercises help you get very clear on your intrinsic motivation, your deep whys. And I want to say this, there is no right or wrong why. It is just what's actually deeply motivating for you. We have some guys who join the program who their deep why is to get 6-pack abs in their 60s. And like, that's really what gets them fired up. And that is amazing. Other guys, it's their kids. Right. Other guys, it's like getting over the fear that they're over the hill. It doesn't matter what it is, but you got to know what that is and write it down and then review it daily. Right. Because our minds are shaping our behavior. Yeah. Our thought patterns are shaping our behavior all the time. And what we need to do is start to reconstruct a new, healthier mindset. And that requires putting good water in the mind. And that good water is reading the mission statement, getting clear every morning when you wake up on why it's important that you make healthier decisions today. So there's a review process that's clear there. Right. That being said, extrinsic motivation, like the carrot that you're chasing, is good in the short term, especially in the trajectory of getting healthy, where the beginning, I'd say first 1, 2, 3 months are very, very important.
Right.
That's when you're trying to break through the gravity pull and like get out of the inertia and get into some positive momentum.
Right.
So having a set short-term 30-day goal is something we're big believers in. And maybe even giving yourself a reward at the end of that. So maybe there is, like, your family's going on a certain trip, or you're buying a certain kind of gadget you've been looking for, or new clothes or whatever at 30 days. You're using the value of, superficial external motivation in addition to intrinsic motivation, using everything in your favor and your power. Now, how do you start to structure the routine and start to see results? I think it comes down to understanding how the body works and what the priorities are. When you're trying to improve your health and your body, there are two foundational, most important things. One is circadian rhythm and sleep. Two is nutrition.
Okay.
And these are really important to talk about, because I think a lot of people, when you think about a health kick or trying to get healthier, the first thing people think about is exercise. I think you need to go be spending more time to invest in exercise. And look, exercise, we can talk about it. There's certain ways to do it that's very effective and very good. But the most important things as we age are good circadian rhythm and regular, like in a good, healthy diet. If we look at the research, is very clear. You look at these centenarians, these populations of people who live to 100 plus.
Yeah.
They call them blue zones. They're all over the world.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. They're not doing P90X.
Yeah. What's his name? Dan Buettner. I love that work.
Dan Buettner, right? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Sure.
You're familiar. So
yes,
the people who live the longest are not doing P90X. They're eating whole foods. They're walking daily. They have great social connections, and they are in sync with the rhythms of the sunrise and sunset. They have good sleep. They're not on the technology and the stress like we are.
Yes.
So this is the recipe for longevity for the human.
Yeah.
So understanding those things, it's first important to really prioritize those. So let's get into that. I think one is nutrition. We can start talking there. Nutrition, we all know, if we went to dinner, Danny, we'd all know what the healthy foods on the dinner are. We all know that the wild salmon is probably a better choice than the burger. Right. But it's a matter of like the choice. And so one of my thought process and how I began to approach this is like, how do we make it so that we make more of your choices healthy by default? Right? Less decisions. How do we create a system that's like, we don't have to rely on as many decisions? We can just make it so that, maybe like, okay, so for example, one of our main strategies in our program is we love our members to standardize their first meal of the day. Right. Don't care when you have it. You could intermittent fast. You could have breakfast at 5 a.m. when you wake up, but standardize that meal and make it healthy. Make it some kind of healthy food you love. So it could be some egg recipe, could be some kind of oatmeal thing, could be a protein shake smoothie, could be a whole bunch of different things. But
when you say standardize, same time, same meal?
Same time, same meal. I mean, look, you could have one or two things in the slot. You don't have to be a robot about these things. But the key message here is that if you're going to have this first meal every single day and you can find a healthy meal that you love, we can take out like 1/3 of your meals. So you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We can nail breakfast just by making it standardized. And the beautiful thing about a standardized first meal is that it gives you energy. It's foods you love. You don't have to exert a lot of willpower, decision fatigue when you have a busy day. You can just start getting going on it. And it sets you up for positive momentum. Right?
Yeah, I love that. I knew you were going there.
In the beginning of the day, right? You've done one thing that's an anchor. It's positive momentum. And why this is also important is because it's inevitable that we're not going to be completely successful with our routine. There's going to be some nights where we went to dinner with the spouse and maybe we thought we were going to eat healthy, but we ended up getting the cheesecake dessert after the fact, right? So we get that thing.
Oh, yeah.
Then the next day.
No, I've been there before.
For sure. Right. And I think that's not even a bad thing. That's just an expected thing. That's life. We have these things and we have variety, but the next day we have that anchor of a standardized good first meal that enables us to not turn an enjoyable micro moment of having dessert into a tailspin of negative momentum.
That's it. Yeah.
It's momentum management. And so that first meal is good. It helps us. It reduces the amount of thinking we need to do. It knocks out at least one super healthy meal. I'm a big fan of shakes just because you can throw in a ton of good stuff that you, even if you're not like let's say a fruit and veggie kind of person, you could throw a bunch of stuff in a blended shake and it tastes amazing, quick to make and keeps you really energized. Many ways to do it, but I think it's a good strategy.
I like that. So you said that the two things that get started were the first was the consistent meal. And then what was the other thing you talked about?
Well, we're going to talk about sleep and circadian rhythm because that's important.
I want to hear about that.
Okay.
Because I find with my sleep, I don't sleep as well as I used to.
Yeah, it happens with age.
Yeah, and I just like, man, I gotta. So talk about that. What should we be doing in sleep and educate people on the circadian rhythm if they don't know what that is?
Yeah. Okay. So basically, it's actually absolutely beautiful and amazing. Like our human bodies have been forged and designed intimately connected with nature. Like, we live in a very modern world right now. We have screens and lights, but for a long time, we didn't have those things. And the body developed to be in contact with the light of the sun coming up and the sun setting. And that changes this whole cascade of hormones in our brain. It is amazing. So for example, like when the sun starts to set at night, and many people have heard this, but I think it's important to really nail this conversation down, is when the sun starts to set, light goes down. Our eyes and our brain, there's an area of our brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus that senses the decreasing amount of light and starts to signal to the brain to release a hormone called melatonin. Melatonin prepares our bodies for sleep. It is an antioxidant in the brain. It is anti-inflammatory. It's antidepressant. And it actually gets our bodies into this rest relaxation mode. And it gets us prepared to have this totally different hormonal rhythm where we sleep, the mind can kind of relax. The brain can get into these different wave states. And that's effectively like really restorative sleep. And in the morning, when the sun rises and we get sunshine in our eyes, it actually helps our brains produce serotonin, which makes us feel good. And guess later in the night, the serotonin is actually helped convert it into melatonin. So it's like this whole dynamic system. Like our mood is tied to the light. What's also tied is our hunger hormones. What we find from the research is that they take two groups of people, they put them on diets. One group misses sleep where they get under 6 hours. The other group sleeps a solid 8 hours. The group that misses sleep not only loses less weight, of the weight that they do lose, 44% of it is less fat. So they lose 44% less fat and less weight and more muscle tissue. So like if you're trying to improve your body composition, what we know is very clear is if you're not missing sleep, you're not going to lose nearly as much weight. You're going to be hungrier. You're going to have higher levels of stress hormones. So my thought process is, look, if you know that sleep is actually a deficit in your life, like this is an area where you can say, raise your hand and say, yeah, man, I know I'm not sleeping well. I'm always tired. I have to have coffee to get going. Then that is a key area to focus on early in your health journey, because it's going to get your hormones working right and you're not pushing a ball uphill.
Right.
In your case, and you're just kind of noticing, I'm a fit, energetic, high performing guy. And I just noticed that my sleep's not as good as it used to be. There's things we can do to optimize it. We can talk about that. But if it's not the crux of a problem for you, then I don't think it's like the house is burning down kind of problem,
Sure. Yeah. That's very interesting, man. So that's two great tips right now for folks. Just get that consistent meal every day, good, healthy meal, the default. I like that word, default. And then take a look at your sleep patterns and see what you need to do there. For me, I know a lot of times it's, if I have a couple of beers or a glass of wine or two before bed, I don't sleep as well, So it's that, and I think a lot of people get caught in that. I've had a stressful day. I come home, I want to unwind and relax, so they have a drink or two and they kind of relax. And then all that sugar from the alcohol, right when we go to sleep, starts to rev up, and now we're awake and we got to go to the bathroom or anything like that. So I find that what I eat and what I drink leading up to my sleep time is really important. Try to back that out. What do you think about that?
I think you're spot on. I think the ideal situation would be like you have your dinner meal, your last meal a day. It's enjoyable. It's foods you love, but there's good variety to it. After that, you pretty much stop eating. And I think you're drinking. This is my personal take. I'm not saying everyone needs to do this, but I believe that we've lost an appreciation for using different kinds of post-meal teas and stuff like this. Crazy suggestion, but listen to this. Tea is essentially plant leaves in water, right? And we're just putting plants in water, and they have many different kind of benefits. And for a long time, humans used to use teas as digestive teas before and after dinner, as unwind teas. And
my mom's a professional tea drinker, man. I can remember. Yeah.
Good.
Growing up, 8 kids. Yeah.
Yeah. So you drink tea, but I mean, there's the cool thing I'm saying about this is I think a lot of people feel like they need to relax and unwind. They're turning to the alcohol because it makes you temporarily like unwind. But as you know, it affects your REM sleep. The sugar is an issue for sure. Like there are other substitutions you can do. There are relaxing teas that have specific amino acids in them that are completely relaxing for the mind, can give you as much of a relaxation as if you had some booze without a lot of the problems. So powerful teas and stuff like that you can do at night. Yeah, but I mean, the point is not like of this podcast, like you need to have tea, but you need to figure out ways to be able to unwind at night,
right?
That aren't, turning to a bunch of crap food late at night that's going to throw off your digestion and your sleep.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Talk a little bit, two more things I want to talk about. The first one is, so the exercise, the weight training, building muscle. Why is it so important for us to build muscle as we get older? I mean, I kind of think we know. And then what's the best way to do that for us? Is it push-ups? Is it walking? Is it, old iron weights, machines?
Yeah. Okay.
How do you all approach that at Fit Father, Fit Mother?
Here's our approach of exercise. Number one is understanding that for busy people, there's a distinction between formal exercise and daily movement. Comes down to the centenarian discussion. The longest lived healthy people, like they move their bodies daily. They accumulate a lot of steps. They walk a lot. So if you're a person who's not exercising, you're very heavy and you're like, man, I just don't even feel like motivated to start walking. Walk after dinner and walk in the morning. 2 great times. After dinner, research has shown you have a meal, you walk, it actually lowers your blood glucose, helps that meal digest better. Very, very effective walking after dinner, and walking in the morning too, to get the whole circulatory system going is very good. Now, you're not going to walk your way to building muscle after 50. It is harder to build muscle as you age. We all know this. Like whether you're a man or a woman, the hormone levels are declining. You don't recover as fast from exercise. So this is where things need to be a little more strategic. My thinking is, as we age, there are 3 types of exercise that we need to be good at. We need strength, because ultimately that's the quality of like our ability to function and generate power with our muscles. And if we look at our parents, or for some people, grandparents, like they're bent over, the spine is down, they can't get up from chairs. There's like a lack of strength. So we need to maintain our strength and muscle mass. Right. We need to maintain our cardiovascular health. Right. So we need to be doing things that allow the heart, which is an amazing muscle, to pump and to be, to be in good shape. Heart disease is #1 killer of men and women. So you got to keep the heart healthy. And the third aspect is flexibility. You need to be able to keep your body and as much out of pain as possible and to heal tight areas. Right. Now, we're busy. Who's got time to go do strength training and cardio and flexibility workouts? And we're doing this because we're not fitness addicts, but we just like to do this stuff. So our thought process is, let's combine all these into one workout.
Ah, nice.
We call it metabolic resistance training, MRT, which is a combination of some of the strength training exercises people may have done in the past years, like the foundational stuff, push-ups, shoulder press, rows, squats, these kinds of things. We do them with a pair of dumbbells, so they're more joint friendly, and you can kind of modify the motion to fit your body. And we do them in a circuit fashion, where let's just say you're doing 10 swings with a kettlebell or a dumbbell into 10 squats, into 10 shoulder presses, and you could do a circuit. And the beautiful thing about this type of exercise, you can get a workout in about 25 to 45 minutes, depending on how many sets you want to do.
Sure.
You can do it at home. It's a lot easier on your joints than maybe some traditional stuff people might have done back in the day with heavy barbell work.
Right.
And it hits all 3. You're doing strength training motions. You're getting cardiovascular activity because you're doing things in a circuit, and you're doing mobility wise the motions that you need to be strong at as you age. Right.
And flexible. Yeah.
The quality of your life, honestly, when you're 70 is the quality of your spine. I mean, how healthy is your spine? Is it jacked up? Do you have disc issues? Are you compressed? So if you can work on training that early in your 50s and 60s and maintain good spine health, good strong core, and you can be strong in the main motions that this body's meant to move in, overhead, pulling, pushing, all these dimensions, you can just stay strong in those, man, you're set. Yeah. Now, the benefits of exercise are absolutely phenomenal. One, the more muscle you build and maintain with age, the faster metabolism is. So you can eat more food and gain less weight, which is huge. That's really great. It's not just the strength, and it also looks good, makes you feel good. You have more energy. What I think is actually fascinating, though, is strength training does a couple cool things on a cellular level. One is it actually increases the expression of anti-aging genes, this class of genes called sirtuins. They basically help your cells age faster. Strength training activates sirtuins. It's amazing. And so this is why you sprinkle strength training in 2-3 times a week. You're getting this gene activation that's going to help you kind of age backwards on a cellular level. Wow. 2, all of our cells have these powerhouses inside of them called mitochondria. We've heard of this. Mitochondria help produce the ATP and energy of our cells. Right. When we strength train and do these kind of MRT workouts as a combination of cardio and strength, the mitochondria actually grow new healthy mitochondria. It's called mitochondrial biogenesis. So the energy centers of your cells become more powerful. And this is like a thing for most people. What is the process of aging is like, you're getting shorter, you're getting more dehydrated and wrinkly, and you're getting less energetic. Like it doesn't have to be that way, but you got to give the body the right kind of stimulus through the exercise to regenerate. But strength training can do that. And I think the way I like to think about it is with exercise, get daily movement in however you can, and then sprinkle in these formal workouts 2-3 times a week. If you want to do more, cool. But just think of it as little pulses that you're doing to like help your body on a cellular level, like make these amazing changes.
Sure. Yeah. That's great. insight and wisdom for people to hear right now. How does you mentioned it when we first started, and you talk about, your health and all that. How does your health impact all these areas? And you mentioned spirituality, and that is a huge area of focus for me, staying connected to source. For me, it's God. Somebody else might call it something different. Talk a little bit about the importance of having that strong spiritual connection.
Okay. I'm glad we brought this up. We could have started here. This is probably the most important thing to me. And actually one of my personal reasons why I perform the kind of actions I do with my body.
Mm-hmm.
When it could be as simple as saying that in many different holy books, the idea that the body is the temple of the Holy Spirit comes up.
Right on.
This body and how we treat it ultimately is going to change our life experience.
Mm-hmm.
When we are not taking care of our bodies, when we are choosing things that we know aren't in our best interest, we wake up and we feel these emotions of guilt, shame, fogginess, lack of feeling like we're at our best. It often makes us turn to all sorts of other compulsory actions and behaviors to kind of like, it creates that negative momentum spin. And I think when I feel most spiritually aligned, I know that my body feels light, clean, energized, clear. I'm telling the truth. I have love in my heart, and I'm working not for myself, but to honor God and source through my work. And the body is the instrument through which I do that work. So it's important to keep that in good shape. But also from an integrity standpoint, like it's kind of a love thing, like to love oneself and to have that love. It means choosing the kinds of things that are going to be supportive of the body. And I want to make it very clear, this does not mean that you necessarily live like a monk or a robot or a nun, or you don't have any fun or joy in your life. You still go out and you have the cheesecake, but it's in the overall context of an approach and a plan, as you calibrated towards health and wellness. And the stuff that you make the choosing to have these other things is more or less like your planned variety fun time. It's just like, it's not like the thing, it's not the momentum I'm trying to escape. It's the thing I'm adding into my life.
Right. So when your clients, customers, when they come to work with you, spirituality is addressed. Is that right?
We leave it up to every individual man and woman about how they connect with that. But through this, it's very subtle in the sense of in the mission statement, journaling initial setup steps, when they're writing that, we're asking them, based on what you believe, you're based on what your faith or your experience of God, source, whatever, all of that is.
Sure. Yeah.
How do your current actions either support that, you in integrity with that, or are they disconnecting you with that?
Yeah.
I know for me, the times in my life where I was not on my health routine as best as possible, the most painful part about it was like feeling like I was out of integrity.
Yeah.
And man, that'll get me moving faster than anything else.
Yeah. You heard my deep sigh there. I'm calling to mind times when I've been out of integrity, and that's a bitch, man.
Right.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is, at least my spiritual lens is that, like a great yogis once said this, but suffering is the way. Like when you feel out of integrity and then you experience the suffering of that, like the pain of that is your guide rail. That's a slap in the butt to get you like moving back in the other direction. Like
absolutely.
If there was no suffering, then it wouldn't be a problem. There wouldn't be a guidepost back to move you there. So I think for a lot of people, if they feel that their health is a little bit out of integrity, you can almost experience right now any bit of negative emotion, as we may say, as almost like a positive thing, saying that deep inside of you, there's a part of you that knows that you can, want to, and maybe even should do better. And that you can use this as fuel to move you forward.
That is cool. Yeah. Your work is just really, really cool. And I know you and I'll stay connected, and, I'll figure out how to get, connected with you and your organization. When people come to you, let's say, 10 people come to you and sign up for work and become, a client customer. What percentage of them achieve their goals, would you say?
When our team is doing great, about 50%.
50. Yeah.
And
that's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, industry average is probably less than 10. I mean, that's the New Year resolution thing.
I would think.
Because the simple truth is it takes a lot of work to change your life and your health. You have to change these deep-seated behaviors.
Yeah.
You need to invest new energy.
Yeah.
You have to change things about how your family behaves.
Yeah.
Your environment at home, your thinking, your normal comfort outlets. Like there's a lot to it, but that's
I think it's so important, right? That's why I always say,
be worth it.
I say to people, you got to do the work. You got to do the work, whether it's your physical, whether it's your relationships, whether it's your, your spiritual. Like you said, it's so important for them to understand that. And the other thing is it's doable. If somebody out there is listening right now and they're 100 pounds overweight, 60 pounds, 120, I would say, listen, there is every reason that a year from now you can be down this much. And there's every reason that you won't. As you said, it's simply your choice. But what I like too about your organization there and your coaches and all is you recognize that a lot of people can't do it on their own. Yes. And that's okay. So just invest, if anybody out there is listening, invest in somebody, some team that can guide you through this, inspire you, help you forgive yourself when you fall off the rails, because that's it. So many people fall off the rails and then they claim they failed. Well, as you know, falling off the rails to growth is part of that journey, is part of the process. So I think that's great, man. How can they get connected with you all? Where should we send them if they want to find out more?
Fitfatherproject.com.
Okay.
Or fitmotherproject.com.
Mm-hmm. Fit father or fit mother. Cool.
Yeah. Fitmotherproject.com, fitfatherproject.com. Mm-hmm. That would be the best place. I mean, you can see all these client testimonial transformation stories, free resources, free meal plans, workouts, and our full programs. Our YouTube channels are also good resources. I think we have over 500 videos across our YouTube channels. Lots of good stuff. But remember, information is not what changes your life. It's really like what you said is committing to following a system with structure that gives you three things. That gives you clarity, because a lot of times when we try to take goals on ourselves and we've struggled in a particular area, those little questions or it's these little unknowns that allow our mind to kind of like derail ourselves because we don't quite have it figured out. So getting into a clear system that gives you the action steps to follow, huge to build that early momentum.
Right.
You need that wellspring of motivation. You need something that helps you find that and maintain that. And we'll use the word inspiration because I think that's a truer word of what it really is, the wellspring of inspiration inside. And number three is you need something that helps you pave the path in your own life so that this becomes your own system. Yeah. Like the diet that works for me is not going to be the same one that works for you. The workouts that work for me is not going to be the same one that works for you. Right. We all need to kind of find our flow, our system, our combination of ingredients. And that's what I'm on a mission to help people do with our programs, because once you do that, it is yours. Yeah. And you know how to manage your life, and you have your own positive momentum creation system. And it's a beautiful thing. We just had a client, Stephen Alexander, who lost 200 pounds in his late 40s.
Wow.
So it's never too late.
200, right on. No, it is never too late indeed, man. Well, you talk about what your people, you said, this is what we're trying to do. I got to tell you, you're doing it. And I think that it's really, really cool because, as you said, nothing's more important than our health and how that impacts so many different areas of our life. So I just want to acknowledge the great work that you're doing, you and your team.
Thanks,
I think it's wonderful. Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I know that you were off to Florida. You're going to get a little something fixed up, right? Get some work done on a leg from an old injury. So I wish you the best there.
Thank you.
I look forward to our paths crossing out in Scottsdale.
Agreed.
At some point, and certainly appreciate you, Dr. Anthony, coming on and giving some folks just some basic things to consider. And I think what you did too is maybe make them a little uncomfortable with how they are if they know they need to work on their health. And I think discomfort is a good thing in terms of moving us towards some action. So I appreciate it.
Well said. Thanks, Danny. I really appreciate you.
You got it, man. I appreciate you too. And everybody, listen, thanks for tuning in. Check out Dr. Anthony's work at Fit Father or Fit Mother Project. And until next time, just remember there is a hell of a difference between just living and being fully alive. Take care, everybody. Well, that certainly was a really great episode with Dr. Anthony. I'm sure you got some good takeaways. For me, there was two things there. There was great education around our pursuit of health. And I know for me, it reminded me of a lot of things I got to pay attention to. And I believe he provided some great inspiration for us to stay on track, to strengthen our approach to health. Or for some of us maybe who've been neglecting it, to say, you know what, I've had enough right now. I've got to really commit to this. I think Dr. Anthony did a wonderful job with that. two things that I found to be really important for me. Number one was when he talked about the importance of having that real healthy default meal in the morning when you first get up, to give yourself some energy and to give yourself some really positive momentum for the day in terms of your exercise and your nutrition. And Dr. Anthony also reminded me of the importance of sleep. And not just sleep as we say, okay, I got into bed and I got out of bed, but rather that nourishing, that deep sleep, letting ourselves really go into those deep, as he said, the rhythms that we get into. So I've got some work to do on that for sure. So listen, I'm sure you've enjoyed it. I probably am pretty certain that you know somebody out there who needs to put some focus on their health, because life is really precious, right? And our health is so important to us. So make sure that you share this with them. Make sure that you post to your social media. Make sure that you like, you comment. And until next time, just remember there's a hell of a difference between just living and being fully alive. Love you. Wish you the best. Take care.